A storm has been brewing over Canton, Massachusetts, and it is not about the weather. It is a legal firestorm. This storm surrounds a woman named Karen Reed. She stands accused in the death of her boyfriend, Boston police officer John O'Keefe. This case has captured the nation's attention, let me tell you. It is a story filled with twists, turns, and explosive accusations. People are glued to their screens, following every single detail. Why? Because this is more than just a trial. It is a battle over what is truth and what is a lie. And right now, a jury is deciding which one it is. The story begins on a cold, snowy morning in January 2022. John O'Keefe is found dead outside a home in Canton. He was lying in the snow, battered and freezing. The prosecution says Karen Reed is responsible. They claim she hit him with her SUV after a night of drinking and left him to die in the cold. A simple yet tragic story of domestic violence turned deadly. But the defense tells a completely different tale. They say Karen Reed is being framed by the very people inside that house, a group that includes other law enforcement officers. This is not the first time we have heard these arguments. The original trial was a spectacle. It ended in a mistrial when the jury could not agree. They were deadlocked. They could not reach a unanimous verdict. That kind of ending leaves everyone with more questions than answers. It means the fight is not over, not by a long shot. So, a retrial was ordered. This gives both sides another chance to make their case, to convince a new set of 12 people of their version of events. And that is where we are today, on June 17, 2025, watching it all unfold again. The public is completely divided. On one side, you have people who believe Karen Reed is a killer. They see the evidence presented by the prosecution as overwhelming. On the other side, an army of supporters shouts, "Free Karen Reed!" from the rooftops and courthouse steps. They are convinced she is the victim of a massive conspiracy and a cover-up by powerful people. This sharp divide is what makes the case so compelling. It has turned ordinary citizens into armchair detectives, each with their own theory about what really happened to John O'Keefe on that snowy night. In the first trial, the prosecution painted a picture of a relationship in trouble. Assistant District Attorney Adam Lally argued that Karen Reed and John O'Keefe were fighting. He presented evidence of angry voicemails and texts. He told the jury that after a night of bar hopping, Reed dropped O'Keefe off at a party. The argument continued, he said, and in a moment of rage, she backed her SUV into him, causing his fatal injuries. Then, she drove away, leaving him for dead in a blizzard. It is a chilling narrative, one that points the finger directly at her. The evidence they brought forward seemed damning. Prosecutors showed the jury pieces of a broken taillight found at the scene. They claimed these pieces matched Karen Reed's black Lexus SUV. They also had an expert testify that O'Keefe's injuries were consistent with being hit by a vehicle. Cell phone data was presented to track Reed's movements. They argued the data showed she returned to the scene after leaving him there. To the prosecution, the case was clear. It was a straight line from Karen Reed's actions to John O'Keefe's tragic death in the snow. But the defense team, led by the fiery Alan Jackson, fought back hard. They said the prosecution's story was a fantasy, a complete fabrication. They argued that John O'Keefe went inside the house for the after party, and inside that house something terrible happened. Jackson proposed that O'Keefe was beaten up by people inside and then thrown outside to die. He pointed the finger at the homeowners and their friends, some of whom were connected to law enforcement. The defense claimed this was not a simple accident. It was a murder and a cover-up. To support this explosive theory, the defense presented its own experts. They had a forensic pathologist who testified that O'Keefe's injuries looked more like an animal attack, possibly from a dog, combined with a physical beating, not a car strike. They questioned the integrity of the investigation from the very start. They accused the Massachusetts State Police of mishandling evidence and ignoring other potential suspects. They suggested the lead investigator had a conflict of interest, a personal connection to the family who owned the home. This created a powerful counter-narrative of conspiracy and corruption. The retrial has been even more dramatic than the first. Both sides have sharpened their attacks. The prosecution has doubled down on its timeline. They again brought witnesses who testified to hearing Reed scream, "I hit him," in a panic that morning. They re-examined the broken taillight evidence, trying to create an unbreakable link between the plastic on the ground and Reed's vehicle. Every piece of evidence was presented with more force, more urgency. The goal was to leave no room for the doubt that caused the first jury to deadlock. They are trying to close every possible loophole. One of the most talked about moments so far has been the testimony of a federal agent. This was new. The defense brought in an expert from a federal agency who had been looking into the handling of the initial investigation. This witness testified about deleted phone calls and questionable data logs from some of the people who were inside the house that night. This testimony was a bombshell. It supported the defense's claim that there was a cover-up, that people were hiding something. The courtroom was silent as the agent detailed inconsistencies in the official records. The defense has also focused heavily on a man named Brian Albert, the owner of the home where O'Keefe was found, and his family. Defense attorney Alan Jackson has relentlessly questioned the actions of the Albert family and their friends that night. He has highlighted phone records that suggest a flurry of activity and communication before O'Keefe's body was officially discovered. The defense is trying to convince the jury that this group of insiders knew O'Keefe was outside, possibly dead or dying, long before Karen Reed found him. They are painting a dark picture of a conspiracy. For its part, the prosecution has tried to poke holes in these conspiracy theories. They call them a distraction, a desperate attempt to shift blame from the only person responsible, Karen Reed. They have put witnesses on the stand to attack the credibility of the defense's experts. They have argued that the so-called cover-up is a fiction, a fantasy created by the defense to confuse the jury. The prosecution's message is simple: focus on the facts, focus on the victim. John O'Keefe is dead, and the woman who put him in that position is sitting right there in the courtroom. Now, it is all in the hands of the jury. 12 men and women have been chosen to decide Karen Reed's fate. Their job is monumental. They must sift through weeks of testimony, hundreds of pieces of evidence, and two completely opposite stories. They are locked away in a room, tasked with reaching a unanimous decision. They have to decide beyond a reasonable doubt if Karen Reed is guilty of murder. That is an incredibly high standard. It means they must be virtually certain that the prosecution has proven its case. It is a heavy burden to carry. The jury has to weigh the physical evidence. Do they believe the broken taillight pieces came from Karen Reed's SUV and were left at the scene when she hit John O'Keefe? Or do they believe the defense's claim that the scene was staged? They have to consider the expert testimony. Whose medical expert is more credible? The one who says the injuries are from a car, or the one who says they are from a fight and an animal attack? These are the technical questions that could sway their decision one way or the other. Every detail matters. They also must judge the credibility of the witnesses. Do they believe the friends and first responders who testified for the prosecution? Or do they believe the defense's narrative that these people are part of a coordinated cover-up? The jurors have watched every person on the stand. They have seen their expressions, heard the tone of their voice. They must decide who was telling the truth and who was lying. This human element is often the most important part of any trial. It comes down to who you believe and why. Whatever the jury decides, the impact will be huge. If they find her guilty, Karen Reed could spend the rest of her life in prison. For John O'Keefe's family and the prosecution, it would be justice served. If they find her not guilty, she walks free. For her supporters, it will be a vindication and proof that the system, though flawed, can still work. And there is always the possibility of another hung jury, which would mean this legal battle is still not over. The public waits, holding its breath, because this case has become a symbol of something larger: the search for truth in a world full of doubt.